What's up, guys? Dan the Dragon Ball Man here, fresh off of platinuming Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. This month, I'm going to do Kakarot, Life is Strange True Colors, and 2, and maybe JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle R. And boy, do we need to talk about this game. I am not the most obsessive fan of Dragon Ball. I enjoyed the original manga before Z, and absolutely enjoyed the crap out of the best of the Z generation of games, like Budokai Tenkaichi 2 and 3, Budokai 1 and 2, and even a bit of Fighter Z, which is more of a Super era game. Dragon Ball games have definitely had their ups and downs, particularly during the PS3 360 era. So, back when this game, Kakarot, was announced, it seemed like it could be interesting. A loyal retelling of the main story? Only single player? Open zone gameplay to freely search for the Dragon Balls, do side quests, and blow up the giant animals, mountains, and buildings? RPG elements and a focus on training like in the main story, considering that practically every arc in Dragon Ball and Z starts or ends with training? The original voice cast returning from the anime or from the Kai re-release? The game definitely had potential. So, where did it go wrong? And how was it getting the platinum? Let's dive in. Obviously, full spoilers ahead. See that amazing intro? Feel that nostalgia with the best Dragon Ball opening theme song? See the awesome fights to come? Enjoy it. The game only gets worse from here on out. For starters, the name is very misleading. The game is called Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, which implies that for the most part you're going to be playing as Goku. Goku, of course, is the main character, so it's only natural that you play as Goku the most. However, this is most definitely not the case. You end up playing, probably around 60% of the time, as Gohan. You spend the whole game going through the scenarios, mostly as Gohan, and the 35% gets divided pretty evenly between Goku, Vegeta, and Piccolo. The remaining 5% has you play as Trunks, briefly, and even more briefly as Goten, Gotenks, and Vegerot. Secondly, the Z moniker unfortunately means that the base game is only going to cover the 4 canon story arcs of Z, being the Saiyan Saga, the Namek Frieza Saga, the Android Saga, and the Buu Saga, with some minor fillers sprinkled throughout the campaign. While I wasn't expecting either the future Trunks story or anything from either GT or Super, I was at least hoping for the story to start with Dragon Ball proper, with Goku as a kid, going through the story beats against the Red Ribbon Army and Demon King Piccolo. It seems weird as the game has the models of several of the original Dragon Ball characters, like Master Shen, Cyborg Tao Pai Pai, Nam, and older Upa and his father Bora, Ader the android, and even has other characters and modeled and fightable like Babidi's minions such as Yakon. But beyond optional side quests and these weird flashback bubble collectibles showing actual screenshots of the anime, there isn't much original Dragon Ball content, which is disappointing, but not playing as much as Goku and being forced to do so much as Gohan is worse. And we're only talking about the base game. I did not enjoy the game enough to return to it or to play any of the DLCs, which aren't part of it on PS Plus anyways. Next, let's look at the gameplay. The gameplay mainly has 2 different modes, combat and exploration. Let's start with the dumpster fire that is combat. Combat in Dragon Ball games previously ranged from mid to extreme in terms of depth. Combos had multiple options, multiple combos, combinations between close, mid, and long range, counters, dodges, and most importantly, ease of access to another whole axis of movement, because most Dragon Ball games have vertical movement allowing for full 3D combat. This game, however, has combat that is so shallow, monotonous, stiff, unintuitive, and boring that the game becomes an extreme slog to play through. All characters in your arsenal fight basically the same way. Every character has one single combo. You simply mash the attack button, and the character does their one attack with a single finisher. You can use the long range attack button to finish the combo early. The long range has a set combo as well, where your character will fire a set amount of shots, ending with a larger charge shot. You can block and either use some energy for an explosion that does minor damage and knocks enemies away, or you can use half of your energy to teleport behind the attacking enemy and launch a counterattack. You have semi-free range of your movement, but it restricts you to two axes of movement at a time, rather than being in fully 3D like other games, such as in Budokai Tenkaichi 3, where you can move diagonally left towards the opponent while rising into the air. After certain story points, you can transform with certain characters, which for the most part means your energy goes down while you're in a mode that makes you do more damage and alters the way your single combo looks. Energy and health depletion mean next to nothing, as you can always stock up on a stupid amount of health items and use them with no lag time, no positioning, have instant heals, and have no cooldown. And simply by holding triangle, you can go from no energy to full charge in less than 5 seconds, which is way too fast, meaning that the optimal way to play is simply by spamming super attacks. Super attacks are drip fed to you at their fastest over the course of the game, either given only at story points or through the mental image challenges. Of those, for the most part, the physical attacks are nearly useless, as their range is incredibly limited. The energy attacks work best, and most super attacks come out instantly, with zero wind-up. Or they have a cinematic that stops the fighting and then immediately launch, meaning there is no downside to just spamming supers. And you absolutely should, as the enemies are so spongy and annoying to fight. There's no point to doing physical attacks, as the enemies can and will spam entering their hyper mode, a mode where they still take damage but do not flinch, which allows the enemies to do any attack they please without interruptions. Most of the time, you can't even complete a single combo on the enemy, as they will simply enter hyper mode and use an unblockable attack. And regarding spamming supers, the enemies most of the time will spam every super they have, doing consecutive super attacks with zero charge time. Most of the bosses will also have several times throughout their arduously long fights where they use 5 to 12 super moves back to back, where your only option is to dodge them by spamming the cross button. There's no point to blocking most enemy attacks, as the shield doesn't last, so you have to rely on your crappy short dodge. Environments also aren't as destructible as normal, meaning your supers will constantly get blocked by loose objects. The combat is so bad, boring, and tedious in this game, and it is compounded and made worse by the game's leveling and power system, where if the enemy is more than 3 levels ahead of you, your damage simply will not be good enough. Their supers can shred you in a few seconds or potentially one-shot you, and worst of all, most of the training fights to unlock your new super moves are forced to be done as a 1 versus 3. Against you, obviously. Oh, I forgot to mention how most of the fights in the game are you, the player, alone against 3 spongy enemies that love to spam instant supers. So, good luck dodging 3 different types of supers all coming from different directions. Okay, so combat is a non starter here. What about the exploration? Well, this part of the game is fairly fun, as you can run extremely fast, jump very high, and fly around the open ish zones of Dragon Ball. Certain objects can be destroyed by attacking them, and there are many materials to obtain for cooking and crafting. However, there are several issues. For one, rather than being an area that you have complete and free reign to fly around, there are several areas within the map that you are loaded into that are off limits and will kick you to other sections if you cross them. See that mountain in the way between your point A and point B? Sorry, but you gotta go around it. Second, hunting is incredibly simple. You just shoot the creatures with energy blasts and pick up their items, save for the large dinos that you have to blast several times. There are fishing and racing mini games, but the races usually require you to use a vehicle. The vehicles are slower than flying, though, so I fail to see the point in using them. The Dragon Balls can only be collected during intermissions, so for about 70% of the game, you just can't collect them. There is an intermission after Namek, after the Android Saga, and after the Boo Saga. So, while flying, it can be fun, unless you get sucked into one of those preset flight routes where they're trying to find a Dragon Ball, or you get stuck running into a rock formation that can't be destroyed, but the other 3 around it could be. Or worse yet, you get sucked into random battles. Yes, while free roaming, generic enemies will challenge you regardless of level. Sure, you can dragon dash into enemies that are 5 levels lower than you to auto win the battle, and this is required for 2 trophies. But the enemies have this annoying tendency to level up to your character's level within a 3 level range, meaning you're forced into combat with annoying frequency, worse than any JRPG I have played. And the enemies are relentless. The exploration is also bogged down rather consistently by loading screens. Some areas should just be connected, but aren't, which requires loading screens. The worst offenders are Capsule Core in West City, Goku's house in the surrounding area, and the trio of the Sacred Land, Korin's Farm, and the Lookout. Most side quests also initiate loading screens, and the game is inconsistent with fast traveling for them. Sometimes the side quests will take you along for some scenes in several locations. Other times you have to manually travel to each scene in the quest, complete with multiple loading screens. Sometimes you will find the key item and teleport back to end the quest. Other times you'll have to travel there yourself. The game is entirely incredibly inconsistent. The main motivation for doing the side quest is the large amount of EXP that they will give you, more so than the standard battles, but not as much as the set-piece story battles. There are also some side quests that are funny, or at least interesting to see some of the interactions between canon characters, such as Launch, who was forgotten about, helping Nam with his village, and seeing good old android Ader again. Regarding the story, it's Dragon Ball Z, with some mandatory filler, like Goku and Piccolo racing to get their driver license, or Gohan bumming around as the Great Saiyan Man. It is nice to see some of these moments in HD 3D, like Vegeta's dirty fireworks, or Krillin exploding on Namek. I was basically just quoting Team 4 Star throughout the whole game. The game is extremely faithful to the source material, although some stuff seemed to be jumped over, such as Goldo getting decapitated, Vegeta's amazing final flash against Cell, and the original ending chapter after the Boo Saga, which apparently was later added as a paid DLC. It also has some funny things from the source material, such as Dende shrinking from New Namek during the end of the Boo Saga. Actually playing this game is a chore. but thankfully the platinum isn't very hard to obtain. The game expects you to do some side content, but you don't even have to come close to 100%ing the game to get the platinum. The multitude of DLCs don't have trophies either, so it's base game all the way. 41 trophies to get the 42nd as your platinum. First off is the tutorial fight. Easy trophy, followed by getting a single entry into the Z Encyclopedia. Once again easy. Helping Hand, earned from completing the first side quest. You only need to complete 10 side quests total for their trophies, but it's recommended to complete more simply to earn more items, money, and EXP. Another easy trophy is for unlocking a super attacker mastery skill in the skill tree. Unless you actively ignore leveling up your skill tree, it's going to be easy and it'll be the first of your 3 trophies for doing so. You will get Metal Madness, which is for obtaining 10 of the D medals, which is like a collectible slash currency, used mainly for other trophies. A Dark Omen for beating the first villainous party, which is a side quest that's best put off until the end of the game, as it involves taking out all of the villainous enemies. These appear on the map and are generally introduced as being much higher level than you, so save it until the end so you can squash them all. And I'll explain why they're more of a pain in a little while. The funnily named trophy, the Power of Friendship, is just for using 10 super attack assists, which is cumulative and is obtained very easily, as you will have support members throughout most of the story arcs. So just use them when you have them in your party. Then you get a trophy for completing the first story arc. Goku's got squeaky ribs, Yajirobe was useful in a fight for the last time, and Goku stops Krillin from killing the best character in the series. This is followed by a Chi-Chi trophy for cooking a full course meal. These are unlockable recipes that give you a temporary percentage boost to your stats, and a permanent stat boost as well. You will need to cook 5 different full course meals for trophies. Next trophy is part of the main campaign, so only 4 more are needed. The next trophy was Thirsty for Knowledge, the second of the Z Encyclopedia trophies for filling out 200 entries. You get entries from memory pickups, side quests, story events, random battles. You basically can't do anything in this game without getting a page. Make sure you check the encyclopedia periodically for rewards, namely a ton of D medals. We'll also get a trophy for getting a message from King Kai, and we will need 20 of these messages, most of which will be obtained from doing side content like flying around, mining minerals, and such. I personally think it's glitchy, as I'm pretty sure I got more than 20 messages, but whatever. Next one is Do Gooder for completing 10 side quests. There are 100 or so in the game, only 10 are needed, but they give out D medals, other items, and a lot of EXP, so do more than just 10. Next trophy is Not Worth My Time for getting an instant victory on an enemy. This only works with the generic enemies that populate the map that are 5 levels lower than you while dragon dashing in the overworld. You will need to beat 50 of them in total, and doing so can be an easier source of EXP and Z tokens. So you use it. So you're gonna want to use it on the knockoff Ginyu Force members. Yeah, they kind of wimped out with some of the models for this game. A lot of the major basic enemies are just reskins of other characters. Like a lot of the Frieza Force members are just recolors of Jason Recoome. Make sure you don't neglect the skill trees, as you will get one trophy from unlocking 50 nodes, ending the Frieza saga. And there's just something nice about seeing Krillin blow up in HD 3D, and then shortly after seeing Frieza get sliced in half by his own Destructo Disc. The following intermission is the first time you can start hunting for Dragon Balls, and you will need to summon Shenron 10 times. Getting the balls is very easy. They like to glow and hum, although sometimes they're a little bit hidden or the map is slightly off. You will get one trophy for the first summon, another one for 5 summons, and another for summoning Shenron 10 times. Don't bother wishing for money, you can just get more by selling valuable items. And if you wish back previous enemies, they can join you for the community boards, which can make grinding a bit easier. As you are now in the mid-30s level-wise, you can easily break some of the special boulders around the maps. For some reason, these have a hard level cap and can only be broken whilst grounded using the prompt. The first one destroyed nets you a trophy called Excavator, and you're going to need to destroy 10 in total. Next trophy is Can't Touch This for getting 50 instant victories, which was just annoying trying to connect with the enemies. Next trophy is Flashy Finish from getting a super finish. This seems to only be possible with Goku and Gohan by using a Kamehameha while in Super Saiyan mode that is also in Hyper mode. It's first possible with Goku vs. Frieza, supposedly, but I had consistent issues with it until about the Buu Saga. The next trophy earned is for 400 entries in the Z Encyclopedia, and then the next 4 trophies all popped back to back for me. The game doesn't outright tell you this, but you have overall challenges for completing rewards such as flying, meeting people, collecting ingredients, cooking, fighting, etc. You have to talk to Master Roshi at the Kame House while not in story quest, and Roshi will reward you with goodies. He will only give you so many at a time, so you have to continually talk to Roshi until he no longer gives you goodies. This got me 3 trophies for 1, 20, and 50 challenges, as well as for collecting 100 D medals. Then we can get the trophy for unlocking 100 nodes on the skill trees, right after summoning Shenron for at least 5 times. After doing the mandatory filler quests, you can start building a hover car and robo walker. Each of these needs 5 parts, and you'll get 3 trophies, 1 for the first part built, and 1 for completing each vehicle. I then got the second boulder trophy, which was just dumb, made 5 different full course meals, and completed the Android saga. Yes, Gohan, this is your peak. Even though you get stronger, it's all downhill from here. During the next intermission, we can wrap up the Shenron trophy for 10 summons. And hey, King Kai finally called 20 times. The next trophies are lately cumulative. Push it to the limit is a bit misleading, as you need to complete 10 training grounds challenges. While it says with any character, it means you have to do 10 challenges on a single character, but it can be any of the playable characters. Party leaders only, of course. I was also doing some cleanup on the lower level villainous parties and managed to take down 20 in total. Then came another frustrating trophy for using 10 Z combos, a combination attack that can only happen with 2 additional party members, who need both of their gauges filled in order to execute a combo for some free damage against a single enemy. I swear I did more than 10, but it doesn't really matter seeing as how the secret boss requires so much time to defeat. Then, after seeing the only canon time that the Spirit Bomb works, we get the trophy ending for ending the Buu Saga. It didn't work on Vegeta, it didn't work on Frieza, and he didn't even try it on Cell. Of course, that's because he knew it wouldn't work. Now we can do the cleanup and the wrap-up. Tough enough for completing a level 10 challenge in the training room. The training room has to be upgraded 9 times with D metals and meteorite pieces and quite a bit of Zenny. If you haven't, Now's a good time to see Roshi at Kame House and to check the Z Encyclopedia. Also, why are you here, Android 21? You can buy the meteorites from the gear shop directly across from Capsule Corp to the south. I also suggest using a full team, stocking up on senzus and heal aids, and buffing yourself with dishes to take down the simulations. Make sure you go super as well. Each earlier level can help increase damage, as well as due to the unique buffs in the skill trees for each character. Then, we can finish fighting the villainous parties, helped along by using the community boards to increase our powers. Hunt down the red ore enemies, fight the 35 groups or so of them, fight the annoying double fusion fight, get the trophy for taking down 30, and then move on to the super boss. Mira, from Dragon Ball Xenoverse, has invaded the land of the Kais. Buff yourself to high heaven, hopefully you're in the 80s or so, equip a bunch of heal aids and senzus, and start the longest and most annoying fight in this shallow fighting game. Z combos are great for guaranteed damage, and with the training room buffs, these will be your best bet for damage against this super spamming boss. Once he falls, the final trophy and the platinum will pop during the locked scene. Congratulations! You've now platinumed the game and never need to play it again. Regarding my thoughts on this game, I enjoy Dragon Ball as a series. It has its moments, and I'm a huge fan of Team 4 Star. I just wish we got more of their new series Hiffle, and they actually did a full abridge of the Blue Saga and the BoJack movie. I loved Budokai Tenkaichi 2 and 3, and I'm still excited when playing Sparking Zero. I recently reread all of the Dragon Ball manga, including the new Super manga. The series, legacy, and more of Akira Toriyama, rest his soul, cannot be understated. But this game is unfortunately a terrible blemish on this franchise. I haven't been this disappointed in a Dragon Ball game since Ultimate Tenkaichi on the PS3. Ugh. The open world feels restrictive, constantly bounded in. Why do certain boulders need me to be in endgame stats to break them? And the combat is done by CyberConnect 2, the people behind the Naruto Storm series, and somehow the combat is less flashy while being even more basic, shallow, and superficial. Which is the same as CyberConnect 2 has got some decent wins under its belt. But Kakarot definitely is not one of them. The absolute best thing about this game is the loyalty to the anime, even if they skip over quite a lot, and the music, which is mostly ripped straight from the anime. The Platinum Man in me puts this as an easy but annoying platinum, as most of the stuff comes easily at all at once, with some annoyances like no easy tracker for the boulders, and I'm certain that the Quintikai messages 50 instant wins and 10 Z combos were glitchy in their tracking. However, this was nowhere near as glitchy as something for the trophies being tracked like in the Outer Worlds. I give platinuming it a 1.75 out of 10, as the only challenges comes from the game just being cheap. Overall, though, the Dan the Ranking Man official ranking is a 28 out of 10. Many fundamentals of the game just don't work, and as much as I am nostalgic over the series, the story, the epicness of the fights, etc., this game fails to do more beyond that by rehashing the most told stories of Dragon Ball, meaningless side quests, extremely generic enemies being the bulk of the fights, pointless busy work, the ridiculousness of how much of it is actually a game, as there are multiple points where you have control over a character in between sights and scenes, where you haven't leveled up, learned new moves, or done anything, and instead of just continuing, you have to walk 2.5 feet and press a single button. One of the most egregious instances of this is just before the tournament starts in the Buu Saga, where you play as Goten. You can't fly, leave the small area, or interact with other people or objects. So why the hell do I have control and need to find Trunks, not once, not twice, but thrice, just to progress the plot and gameplay? It's also weird how none of the side quests are voiced, but pretty much the entirety of the main quest is. The game has a lot of features that get briefly explained and can then just be largely ignored. There's also a lot of features that just feel slow to use on purpose, like cooking and the community board. If you're not trophy hunting, you can just do the main story quests and ignore everything else. Even the tutorials forced upon you can be swiftly forgotten and never dealt with again. Most of the game doesn't feel as interactive as it should be. There's no multiplayer and really only has 5 playable characters. Most of the supers are just rehashes of the same technique. So even if you get upgrades, it never feels like you're getting something cool. You can eventually get upgrades that add a new hit to your one combo. Oh, wow. If the game was just a linear retelling of Dragon Ball Z, fine. But the game tries to do too much, but none of it matters because it's all superficial. Why use the vehicles when you can fly faster and more easily?
I guess those little monsters
Why get buffs from food if you can just level up one more time and take everything out without a fight? Why fight the villainous enemies if they don't chase you, get in the way, and don't care about trophies? Why bother leveling up if the best skills aren't unlocked via level up? Everything this game tries to do seems to be at odds with what it actually does. Remember how Vegeta obliterated Kui in about 12 seconds? Well, in Kakarot, Kui is a boss who is nearly as hard as Dodoria, who consecutively gets super armor and takes a while to defeat. And why is it called Kakarot if majority of the time we're playing as Gohan? There are many better games to play, and there are certainly better Dragon Ball games to play. Don't waste your time on this one, and definitely don't bother with the DLC unless you're the biggest Dragon Ball fan ever, and even then, hard maybe. So until next time, remember, only losers think Krillin is weaker than Yamcha.